Hey guys, I'm Joshua Val. I'm a DJ and music producer based in Manchester. I've had releases on the likes of Hotcreations, Hot Tracks, Circus, and since then I started my own label and events called Gibberish. And I'm here today in my studio in a very, very sunny Manchester to talk about all things Gibberish, my next record, Bring the Beat Back, as well as a little bit more about me. So I started DJing when I was 9 years old. So I started really, really young and I fell in love with house music and loved everything about it. And as I got a little bit older, I got into the production side. So I've been producing just under a decade, man. I think I started when I was about 18. The funny story, I actually started producing because I won some money on a football accumulator. It was 700 quid, and rather than going out and spending it, I decided that I was going to go buy myself a Mac and also Logic, and it's all sort of kept rolling from there. So after sort of learning how to produce, I started sending music out, and my first real big supporter was Jamie Jones. And Jamie's played such a pivotal part in my career up till now. You know, he signed 8 records that came out on Hotcreations and Hot Tracks. So I had my debut ever release was the Sound EP, which came out on Hotcreations, which was mad. And since then, like I said, I've had 8 records that have came out with Jamie, and he's been a real great supporter of my music. The idea for Gibberish was sort of sown maybe in about 2022. I'd been spending a lot of time writing records that were a little bit tougher, and I noticed that nobody else was doing what I was doing. The sound was kind of extremely housey or extremely techno, and there was nobody that sort of bridged that gap. Which meant that a lot of my music started to stand out amongst all the noise. So I saw there was a gap, and I realised that, you know, Jamie can't take every single one of my records, so it would be a great opportunity to set up my own thing and be different. And then in May 2023, I made the biggest decision of my life and left my corporate job of 10 years to do music full time. I hadn't been happy there for a very long time, and I knew that it was time to make a change and really go all in on this project and really give myself a chance. I then launched Gibberish in August 2023. The first record was called Gibberish to really set the tone of the label, and it was a tougher record. It was heavily supported by the likes of Jamie Jones, Patrick Topping, Solomon, and then it had loads of Radio 1 support. I have been lucky enough over the years to have a lot of support from the guys at Radio 1, and Pete Tong launched my label live on his Radio 1 show on Friday night, and it was just the most incredible feeling. You know, I've been such a big supporter of Pete from when I was 9 years old in the back of my mum and dad's car listening to Friday night Radio 1, so it was a real full circle moment for him to be launching my label on his Radio 1 show. It then went on to have loads of support from Charlie T and Sarah Story as well, which was just incredible. The next release was Say Yes. That came out about 5-6 weeks later, and that record had been doing the damage across the world in clubs for maybe 12 months before it was released, and it was really well received, and it really showed an element to my production, which, when I was saying earlier about sitting in that bit between sort of tech house and techno, I felt like that was the perfect sort of sort of fusation? Is fusation a word? I don't know, fusing of the two sounds, and I thought it really gave you a good idea of what my sound really was about and the direction that I intend Gibberish to go in. Then the next record that came out on Gibberish was a 2-track EP. It was the first EP on the label, and it was Rhythm of House and Giving Everything. The B-side, Giving Everything, it was a record that really meant a lot to me. When I wrote the record, I'd just given up my corporate job of 10 years. And I'd moved to Manchester. I got out of Derby, and I was really giving everything. I was spending all my time down here in this studio that I'd built. I'm really grinding, and I was putting in the hours to really make this work. And it's a record that fortunately was very well received. It was supported heavily that summer in Ibiza. Really notably, it was played at Defected Closings at Ushuaia by Eats Everything and Dennis Ferrer, 2 huge artists that I've admired for so long. So fast forward to 2025, my next record is a 2-track EP called Bring the Beat and Bodywork, 2 very modular club cuts. When I wrote Rhythm of House last year, within the same week, I'd also wrote Bring the Beat. The Bring the Beat is a tougher record, very SH101 led. And funny enough, actually, I stumbled across a video this week of the day that I'd actually recorded that record, I'd actually put my phone down in the studio and I was playing the riff out on my keyboard, and I knew that I was onto something special back then, so I sent it out to some DJs and it started to get some support and gain some traction and get played in festivals and clubs and things like that. So I felt that it was only right that it should be the next record that comes out on Gibberish. And then the B-side, Bodywork, it's a more modular cut. It's, if you were a fan of, I feel like there's elements of my first record that I ever released, which was called The Sound, that came out on Hot Creations. There's elements of that in it. It's very modular. And I think if you've listened to my music, you'll realise that I like combining multiple elements in one track. So sometimes it might feel like there's maybe 2 tracks or 3 tracks that are based into one, so there's a surprise, and it electrifies the dance floor a little bit. And this record is one of them. There's like 3 different melodies that kind of run throughout the record, and they all seem to work together really, really well. So I'm really excited, and I think that it kind of sits perfectly with a Bring the Beat, 2 records that are made for the club. But a massive thank you to you lot. It was a real stab in the unknown, kind of going down the label route and events route, but you guys have really got behind me in the project, and I really feel the love from you lot, so thank you very much. My next record, like I said, is out on Friday, the 28th of March, which is my Bring the Beat EP on my own Gibberish imprint. I hope you enjoy it, and speak to you very soon.